Hi everyone, in this occasion, allow me to introduce myself. First, my name is Nazila Dwi SUKARNO PUTRI and my nickname is Nazila. I'm from 3C Math Education class. And now, in this video, we will learn about quadratic equation. Speaking about quadratic equation, maybe all of you have learned quadratic equation in junior high school. Now I will explain about quadratic equation. So the first, what is the definition of quadratic equation? Now I will explain the definition about quadratic equation with the easiest answer. We can see from the pattern, quadratic equation whose equation with the highest degree is 2. We can see in the layer, quadratic equation has general form, that is ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, where a, b, c are known values and a cannot be 0. X is the variable we don't know it yet. And now, how can I solve the problem about the quadratic equation? The solution of the quadratic equation are where it is equals to 0. They are called with roots. Don't get along, just go to the examples to make it easier to understand about quadratic equation. We have the first example in here. The question is solve x squared plus 2x equals to 15. Before we going to find the factor of the equation, we should make the equation equals to 0. After we make equals to 0, and then we can find the factor of the equation. From the equation we have x plus 5 equals to 0 or x minus 3 equals to 0, and then we have the answer is x equals to negative 5 and then x equals to 3. And then the solution of the quadratic equation is x equals to negative 5 or x equals to 3. And then we're going to the second example. The question is solve 2x squared minus 14x minus 13 using the quadratic formula. Don't forget to answer it, make sure that the equation equals to 0. And then from the equation, we have value of a equals to 2 and value of b equals to negative 14, and then value of c is negative 13. And then we can solve with the quadratic formula. From the pattern, we just need substitution the a, b, and c values. After that, calculate, and then we will have the solution like in the picture. From the example, we can solve the quadratic equation problem with factoring, or in the other way, we can solve with using special quadratic formula, seems like in the picture. And then substitution the value of a, b, and c and calculate, and we will have the answer. Plus minus means there are two answers. The example like in the before. After we learning how to determine the roots of a quadratic equation, with the symbol ax squared plus px plus c equals 0 by using the ABC formula. From the above formula, it appears that the roots of the quadratic equation are largely determined by value b squared minus 4ac. Shape b squared minus 4 multiply a multiply c is called a discriminant or differentiator, which is denoted by the letter D capital, so that D equals b squared minus 4 multiply a multiply c. Discriminant functions as determining the type of roots of a quadratic equation. To check the relationship between the types of roots of a quadratic equation with the discriminant value d equals b squared minus 4ac, we have three examples in here. The first example, we have quadratic equation with x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. We have a equals 1 and we have b equals 5 and we have c equals 6. After that, when we substitution the number of ABC to value d, we have d equals 1. Next, we're going to the second examples. In here, we have x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 0. And we have a equals 1, b equals minus 4, and we have c equals 4. So when we substitution the number of ABC to the value d, we have d equals 0. Next, with the last examples, we have 3x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 0. And then we will have a equals 3, b equals 2, and c equals 1. And then repeat the method the same as like the previous example, and then we will have d equals negative 8. From the first examples, we have the discriminatory value is equals 1. It turned out that we have d more than 0 value and d equals 1 are perfect squares. In the quadratic equation in example 2, namely x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 0, has roots. The first x and the second x equals 2. It is said that the two roots are the same or twins, real and rational, because the value or the discriminant values is equals 0. It turned out that d equals 0. And then in the last example, which is 3x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 0, doesn't have real roots, or both roots are not real, or we can say with imaginary. The coefficient of the quadratic equation are a equals 3, b equals 2, and c equals 1 have discriminant value equals negative 8. It turned out that d is less than 0. Based on the explanation above, we can see that there is a relationship between the type of roots of the quadratic equation and the discriminant values, namely t equals p quadrat minus 4ac. So the discriminant value, namely t equals p quadrat minus 4 multiply a multiply c, greatly determines the type of roots of the quadratic equation ax quadrat plus bx plus c equals 0. And then name with the first one, we have if t more than 0, then the quadratic equation has two different real roots, but that's divided by two roots. The first, if t is a perfect square, then both roots are rational. And then if t isn't a perfect square, so make both roots are irrational. The second quadratic equation of type of roots is if t equals 0, then make the quadratic equation has two common roots or twins, and then real and rational. And the last type of roots of the quadratic equation is if t less than 0, then the quadratic equation doesn't have real roots, or both roots are not real, or we can say with imaginary. So that is a little bit explained from me about quadratic equation and how to solve it. Don't forget to remember about the quadratic formula.